Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw. With me are my co hosts, Matthew Aguilar and Janelle Wheeler. And guys, it's another fine Friday with the live show. We are live here on YouTube. And if you're asking Django in the Twitter comments, yeah, we got a whole YouTube page. It's Comic Book One Word Nation. Oh, look, I got a shirt today. Look, free promotionals. There we go. So you can find us on Comic Book Nation YouTube. You can also find us on the Comic Book Twitch streaming channel, where we have a bunch of great of our diehard fans over there. So go join that community as well. All right, what's up, guys? Everybody, on this fine Friday, we had a whole plan, but this is Comic Book Nation, and we are live, and things happen. So up first, we got to talk about that new Wolverine Deadpool. I reversed it. That new Deadpool Wolverine trailer dropped right before we came on. And for once, the entertainment gods are on our side. It dropped before our show, not after our show. And in 6 years, in the 6 seasons of doing this show, we've had so many Fridays where things drop right after we hang up the mics. And then, we look like asses because it looks like we don't talk about the topical stuff when we're out here supposed to be covering all things geek culture. But today, here we are. So Deadpool Wolverine final trailer. I had to flip a coin about whether I was going to press play on this one. It's coming out next week, but I started hearing some buzz, and I still believe that no matter what this trailer shows, they're only showing us stuff to tee us up for even bigger stuff, to make us feel like, oh my God, we've seen a big surprise. And then there's going to be like tons of other surprises. So I was like, okay, I'm going to bet on Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and Sean Levy and what they're showing us, and just watch this through. And I'm glad I did. It's probably the best cut, in my opinion, of telling us the kind of the deeper thematic story of this, not just irreverent Deadpool and Wolverine banter, but actually like why Wade needs Logan and needs Logan to remember why he's the Logan he remembers him to be, and to inspire this variant Logan to come make a bounce back from this thing that we won't reference, because as comic readers we probably know where this is all kind of coming from, but to kind of re-embrace himself as a hero and do that. So I liked that, because Deadpool 2, as much as I don't necessarily like it as much as Deadpool 1, I do get always so emotional at those bookended parts with him and Vanessa, and like all that stuff. And so they can have a heart to these movies, and I want there to be a good one that also works on multiple levels of, showing us, honoring what Hugh Jackman has done, for comic book movies and playing Wolverine, even giving some respect to the Fox X-Men universe and what that all did, while also being this fun kind of trip that does some new Marvel stuff and sets us up for, and has a bunch of fun cameos and little Easter egg nods and stuff like that in between. So and the hype couldn't be bigger for this at this point. What did you guys think of this trailer? Did you even press play? Janelle Wheeler, surprise throw to you.
Yeah, of course. This trailer felt serious, like not cheeky, funny, and and I like that. It felt like there was more to the story, and I'm getting to know it a little bit. And that is exciting because, it feels like it's going to be more than just a comedy. Like we're just laughing the whole time at curse words and action. Like it seems like there's actual heart behind this, and some character development and growth, and definitely a new perspective. Now I'm getting to know like what the first thing that my husband said is, why are they teamed up? Like, how are they together? And I just looked at him, I said, the TVA. And he went, what? And I was like, yeah, like it's going to get crazy. And so I do feel like we got more understanding of like, this is not our Wolverine. This is not the one that like we have clung to for so long. And I think that's going to be really, really cool. So yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised by this one. And I was kind of feeling like, Kofi, I know you said you've done this recently. You don't like to watch too many trailers because it's getting to a point where they can spoil us for the films. And I will say that this one gave me more context, more story, more excitement for it, but didn't spoil. And that is exactly what I wanted. So
Yeah, I think we're showing an older trailer here in our show,
Yeah,
which is
Yeah.
smart
that's
production
okay.
move. No, smart production. Shout out to our producers, Rich and Peter, because they know these things. I put the link in, and they were like, "No, dummy, people will get mad at us," and so they put in this better, better trailer that's not spoiling it for anybody watching the show. You guys, good production note that you guys can go out and find it. It's not hard to find. It's the Deadpool
Yeah, I
Wolverine
was gonna
final
serious.
trailer, so you guys can
Mhm.
sure find it without us. But yeah, there is some, and that's good. So then we're going to keep it kind of spoiler free because there are some big surprise cameos that are revealed in the trailer. Which also expert co-host team. You didn't let me stumble into that one. We didn't. We don't have to piss anybody off today. So there's some big cameo spoilers in the trailer, but again, not enough that it made me feel like there aren't bigger surprises. And I think
Right.
that cameo was actually going to be used pretty effectively. Like it's not superfluous. It's again, there's I feel like Levy is so good at making films that are genre, have great spectacle, but also have definite heart. The Atom Project, what's Free Guy, both his projects with Reynolds, they're in this groove of that. But he also made Real
Yeah.
Steel with Hugh Jackman. So these are all guys that have done this like together before, and I think they're going to be just knocking it out of the park, like making us even shed a tear and come away, like I said, like respecting and looking at maybe the Fox X-Men universe in a much different way, and just making us realize how much story we may have gotten and the power of some of those stories. Because I think that cameo is a hint of that, hearing that stuff and seeing that. So yeah, man. I mean, as the comments are saying, we don't have to sell this too much. You all are hyped. We're hyped. We were going to do a little freestyle discussion at the end of this episode about Comic Con because I'll be out there next week. Brandon Davis and the Phase Zero crew are going to be all over this. They are already all over it. We got special surprises coming up for Deadpool Wolverine all week. So be sure to subscribe to the Phase Zero feed as well because they're going to be doing some pretty hype stuff over there. And we'll all be kind of teaming up for Comic Con next week when, a little movie called Deadpool Wolverine will also be dropping. So it's going to be a busy week, guys. It's going to be nuts. All right. Whose laugh? Please tell me that was Janelle's laugh,
That was
right?
me.
Okay. Oh my God. I was like, I got really concerned. I was like, Matt, what? What?
What
I
did
was
I
like,
do?
Matt, if that's
I wouldn't
no,
be surprised.
Janelle. I'm sorry. I wasn't looking. I was looking at the sheet and I heard this little laugh and I was like, please tell me that's Janelle. Because if it was you, I was gonna. My next question was like, yeah. Next question was like, who do you have in the basement and how long have they been tied up there? Like, yeah. Um. All right, guys. So let's move on to something that's going to be a little bit more spoiler filled. We got to the end of The Boys this season, and oh man, The Boys. The Boys does seem to be have a superpower for just
It's crazy.
stumbling into our real world events with uncanny timing. This was just like when the whole Stormfront that storyline came in the fall, September to like October before the 2020 election, and now in 2024 we now have a episode for the boys finale called Assassination Run, and even they knew that they were like, oh God, please, because they had to put a disclaimer in front of this episode saying, look guys, we filmed this in 2023. Please do not get mad at us. Please do not, send us letter bombs and dox us. We really filmed this a long time ago. The world's just weird. So yeah, we got the boys finale, and we did. We're going to talk a little bit about the Acolyte, but we also did a pretty epic Acolyte aftermath. Thank you, Janelle Wheeler, for staying up late with us for that. But the boys finale. So I'm kind of really on have finales on the brain this week with both of these shows, and I think this was a really good finale of the boys. Probably one of the better ones that we've gotten, honestly. I mean, they tend to be a strong finale. They tend to have strong finishes in the boys, but this was a pretty strong finish, all things considered. But kind of still for me, like a strong finish within a season that is essentially moving the chess pieces around into this new arrangement that's going to be a lot more epic and kind of high stakes for the final season. So there was a mix of things that happened. There was also a mix of things that were left just completely unresolved. Like there's a whole scene about Ashley in the beginning of this and things that happen with Ashley that we never get resolved by the end, and it's just like, oh yeah. And but all of that I'm okay with because I know we're coming back for another season. All in all, I also like the Gen V tie-ins. I'm excited for more Gen V, and like this whole universe is it's kind of clicking, and the boys are gonna have one hell of a final season, and I'm super duper excited for that. So I guess we made it through the mess, but it wasn't too bad of a mess for me, at least. What do you guys think, Matt? We haven't heard from you at all. I'm sorry, buddy. Like we just
Oh,
been talking
no, no,
about
no.
crazy things.
Um, so like, man, okay. So this was I think you nailed it on the head of this was a strong finale, but it also brings all of my issues with the season to this point uh into focus. And so for me, this was this was season 5 part 1, and it was a very slow season 5 part 1. And I don't think a lot actually happens in this season until like literally the last half of this episode. Like we start moving all that stuff and it goes like hyperspeed, and then you're like, well, where was this pace throughout the entire season? And I don't this was it was good. Like this part was good, but I just go like, why did we have to? I don't know. I have issues with pacing throughout the season and some things. So like while I enjoyed parts of this episode, it just kind of brought a lot of that into focus. And I was just, I was like, okay, cool. This felt like a prologue to season 5. This felt like, hey, we got to get everybody. Here's the big event that's going to set off season 5. We got to get Starlight into a place where like she's downing herself, and then we got to get this person over here. It's just it very much felt like that, and a lot of the payoffs weren't enough to overcome that for me. It always just felt like we're in plot development and we're in setup. And to me, I get it for the first few episodes of a season, but like, you know, we gotta move something forward, and some of the characters just didn't really move that far from where they were, and the over the topness that is part of like what I like about the boys just kind of overtook some actual like story progression and character development. And so I was just like, I was left with a lot of that this season. And some things just didn't click for me. So like it was good. I'm excited for season 5. I'm also very glad, as we talked about last time around, that I'm very glad that it's ending at season 5, because I think going any further than that will deteriorate the show at a pace that I don't want to see, because I love this show. So yeah, that's me. I mean, that's kind of
Uh,
how I feel.
Yo, I want to shout out a longtime fan, Chris Chipperson, over on the YouTube feed, pointing out that okay, so I do the recaps for the boys for comic book. I write up these crazy long recaps of this crazy show, and so I've been watching the screeners every week to do that. And so this episode was called Assassination Run originally in the screeners, but Chris Chipperson points out that, and I just confirmed this, yeah, on Amazon they took that away. It's actually just called Episode 8 Season 4 Finale when they put it out on Amazon. So shout out to our fans. This is why we need you guys, because you guys are fans, you're fans. And we want to say that yeah, I didn't know that. So interesting note, and probably a smart move to take that one off. But yes, this was in the screeners originally called Assassination Run. And for obvious reasons we don't get into on this show, they had to change that. Okay.
That's great.
So, Janelle, what did you think about The
Yeah.
Boys season 4 finale?
Well, there's a lot going on in this episode. I feel like there was more going on in this episode than in the entire season, which is good and bad, both good and bad. I feel like, I kind of agree with Matt that a lot of the episodes of this season were kind of filler episodes. And although there would be like one major thing happening per episode, when you have a finale like this, when there's a ton of major things that are really important to character, or to story progression, it's kind of like night and day. I think the finale was spectacular, but it only highlighted some of the weaker episodes of the season. Uh, the I'm curious to see where we go from here, because I love where they left off with Ashley. I love, what may or may not happen with Homelander's son. And those are the things that really keep me going. Butcher, I'm very confused about the Butcher situation. Is he actually dying? Like, I don't. It's very weird. Like, he was, and then I guess he's not now. At the end, I don't really know where they left me off on that. But at long, I mean, we can't not have Butcher for the final season. Like, we
Right.
have to
Yeah.
have him. So they salvaged
Well,
that.
I think it's revealed that he is still, but while he does have, this thing that was alluded to all season that
So he
that
was just
he's
being
also.
a manipulative, awful person
Well,
and
he
pretending
tried.
to be dying in a hospital.
No, he really is. Like he actually
But
is. He
now he
just.
can just walk around and kill people like it's nothing.
So
Well,
I
it's
took it
well, yeah.
as
Let me just
go ahead.
get this out. Like, no, you know what? I want to hear what Matt cooks with. Let's see, Matty, what'd you get?
Okay. Well, no, because there's been a lot of divisiveness actually over this plot point.
Really?
Yeah.
Online.
Oh yeah, no,
Right.
people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the way I took it and the way that, because I was also confused too, because like the way I understood it was a little bit different. So evidently when his personality, when his angry personality is in control, he has those powers and he has those abilities. That's why he hasn't been
Yeah.
able to call back on them at certain points. But it's almost like a Jane Thor situation of like, when that's in control, he's good. When it's
Okay.
not, he is still
He's
rapidly
dying.
dying. And he also doesn't have access to those. So that's why when he's in the back seat as the thing ends, it's like it's still trying to show that Butcher is still in control at that point and is making a decision. But if he gives in, it's very much like a quid pro quo situation there.
Yeah.
He can possibly live on and have powers.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. If Negan's in
Um,
the driver's seat, like, you're gonna have this power behind it. Sorry, I just can't get over the Jeffrey Dean Morgan of it all.
no, but that's the whole thing. Like, not to get deep critic on anybody because it's the boys, but like that was the overall theme of this whole season. If you go back over it all, and this is just me writing like 5,000 word recaps every week and having to listen to this dialogue like 4 times. Is everybody putting on these? It's shedding of false identities, something that they literally put in the show as a shapeshifter who sheds skin, right? So this season is all about people wearing like either self-deluded faces of themselves, or who they think they are, or pretending to be something they're not, and like with the firecracker and the propaganda stuff, and deep in his whole thing when he really loves his octopus, but he's trying to like be this other person, all this stuff. Butcher's storyline in that is, he's beginning to have these splits in personality because he's trying, as he's dying and kind of reflecting, to be this better person, but he's still Butcher in the end underneath it all. And that's why this Joe persona does a whole fight club on him, because this is who he really is. He's trying to suppress that and be like the Becca ghost, but this is who he really is. And he is this ultimate asshole sociopath, kind of singularly focused on eliminating this enemy, and to the point where he doesn't care about any connections, anything, like even his closest friends and allies. Like, he doesn't care about any of that, and that's who he didn't want to admit that he is, but that he is. And it doesn't hit as hard in this episode, but like one big thing is the reveal from Joe when they have an argument is like, yeah, I've been holding on to like all of this power all this time, and he has to basically coerce himself, like, if you can keep to our real mission, the thing that we both really want to do, I will let this power loose and you can control it, like you can have it. But like, we're gonna have to make a deal here. Because, you got to imagine that there's part of Butcher that hates himself for having a superpower, because like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. So it's all about that. It confused the hell out of a lot of people. Like, yeah, and it was kind of muddled, but like, yes, that's essentially it. He has the mighty Thor power. Like, if he gives in to this side of himself, then like, yeah, he gets his kind of crazy boost in power. But if he's just trying to deny that, then Joe's kind of keeping it away from him and gatekeeping it, and then he's just sickly and dying. So by the end, you see where we end up. Butcher's back to being Butcher and all alone, and all that stuff. Anyway, so yeah, it was a weird way to go through this season and pull in a bunch of Fight Clubs, and it's still kind of arguable with this and the Acolyte about whether this Shyamalan twist crap is something we need to keep doing instead of just telling us what's going on and letting us have a story with development and characters and stuff. But yeah, so what did you guys think about Sister Sage's role in all this? Because there was a lot of also debate about putting a person who's the smartest person on Earth in a show, and like, can you pull that off? Was it earned, or did you feel like this was just Deus Ex Machina of, this was the plan the whole time?
I don't know. That wasn't honestly, like, that was not a standout thing for me or moment for me. Obviously, like, Homelander's reaction to it was awesome, but I don't know how much I don't believe anything anymore these days, by the way. Like, I'm so jaded. Get it? But yeah, that wasn't a stand. She was way cooler when she was hands on and like kind of in the front. I really liked her as a character. I really thought she was bringing a lot to the show. So when they kind of just threw her out for an episode or two, I was kind of like, that sucks. I liked her. I mean, I didn't like her, but I liked her, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
She was doing a good
Yeah,
job. But yeah, I really just like my standout points were just Ashley getting, using V and
Oh,
um, really Homelander and his son, like that interaction. And obviously Starlight. She's back, baby. Like,
What
let's
about the
do it.
big death? Were you guys shocked by that? And did you guys see that coming?
Matt.
oh. Yeah. Not in that way.
I didn't care. Is that terrible?
Oh no, I cared, but I
Okay.
saw there's a lot of parts to this, like the sister. Even go back to the Sister Sage thing real quick. It's like there's parts of that story I really like, but her reasoning was just, to me, just like I didn't understand. I was very puzzled by the reasoning that she gave. Now with the whole 2.0, like we're going into phase 2 and all that. Okay, cool. Like all of this depends on how season 5 completes the story, because they just feel so connected, too much so like I can't really, it's hard to make an observation on some things of like, okay, well this feels like part 1 and I'm not getting the whole thing. It doesn't feel self-contained enough. So like I have a question mark on Sister Sage as far as like if they can nail that landing. For for the big death though, I felt that. Like I felt like this show is all about double crossing and twisting, and there were already the signs there of like that relationship coming to an end and all that. So like, yeah, like I saw it come. Now I didn't see how. I didn't see the whole, I mean, we can get into spoilers here, right? So like, I didn't see the tentacle stuff and like, oh, okay, the way I always thought like framing would be a part of it. But again, it was more like how that was laid out and the execution of that surprised me. Like how those pieces fell into place. But the fact that they did was not really a shock. Again, I do like where it leaves us for season 5, because that's a good, interesting spot to start a season for the boys, and how fractured they are now and where they are. So like, I wasn't like shocked by the death itself, but how it was carried out, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of glad Sage's mania revealed. To see her kind of truly be like a supervillain. Like that was a spin I liked, to her not being this kind of like downtrodden, kind of like bored, but just saying, kind of having a
Agreed.
Joker-ish type of thing. Like
Yeah.
I did it because I am the smartest person, and if you're the smartest person, I think I would agree with the characterization that if you're the smartest person on Earth, the thing you are the most is bored, and mostly bored with everybody around you and how crazy stupid everything is around you, because I mean, even if you're the smartest, like you can't make the world follow your logic and all of that. That was her whole point in the beginning, right? Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
know stuff doesn't mean I can affect anything because of who I am. And so her giving her the power to cook was just what she wanted to do the most, and just for the sake of it. And I kind of like that, because that makes me interested in where we could go with this. And all the ways they set up, as people are pointing out in the comments, that Homelander can potentially die in an unexpected way that we get in the last season. I would like him to get Benny, shout out to Andrew over on YouTube. I would like to see him get Benny Blanco. And if you understand that reference from Carlito's Way, it's one of the best ways to do things. Just when you think like, the person's made it and they get, hit up at the end. I would love to see just Homelander about to achieve victory and Ashley come out of left field and just annihilate him with all the rage of all 5 seasons, and then just be like, "Oh my god, I'm out of here," and go
That
back
would
to
be
like
amazing.
That
Tech
would be
Knight
so great. Oh my
and just
god.
end her night in Tech Nine's dungeon with a espresso martini. That'd be as a post credits. That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, yeah,
Overall,
and
great.
yeah, and
Overall,
Nirvana.
still a great show.
Shout out to bringing back Nirvana heart shaped box at the end there. Always a great
Hmm.
song when used correctly. And yeah, well done. All right. So it's always good to check in with the boys though, and I'll be eager to see this final season. I think we can all kind of agree with that.
Hmm.
Real quick, we don't have to get too deep into this because me and Janelle, we went so deep on this. But Maddie boy, what'd you think about the Acolyte finale? Sam, what'd you think?
Man, I dug it.
It's been a
This is
long
going to be a
week.
theme of this is going to be a theme of this episode too, because we're also going to talk about another show that like I stumped for and is around. But I stumped for this show, and I've had issues with again like some pacing and execution and stuff, but overall, I've really liked what we did here, and number one coming out of this, I think the one of the bigger things is like I want a season 2. I think there's
Wow.
plenty of meat left on that bone. Where we leave things off to me is interesting. And even taking away that like I'm not the most Star Wars knowledgeable person, right? So like some stuff is just gonna go over my head or fly right by me. I still got a lot out of this episode, and like there were some really good. Number one, there's some great action in this, but also just some like really good character moments, like seeing Osha's journey and how that kind of finally comes into fruition with like the whole lightsaber moment was so good. Like having it go like really just like being a visual representation of her story throughout this whole thing, right? And everything. I thought that was just so good. So yeah, I really dug this finale. And I want more.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you watched Acolyte Aftermath, and I watched ours back just because I had a slight meltdown in the beginning, just because it was a live reaction and I was just trying to process everything this episode threw at us, and from the crazy Darth Plagueis appearance to the ending and stuff. But I ultimately, after our hour and a half therapy session, I did ultimately come away saying that I would like to see a season 2, with the caveat that a season 2 that now cuts down the focus to
Right.
not trying to be so much a story with these kind of crazy themes, because this took a swing at a lot of large themes, but it was too much. It got too muddled, and like it didn't really end up saying so much of anything at all. So like I want the second season to be much more focused. Like, we now have characters established. Let's just play with those characters. Let's just play with like a simple journey with a smaller, focus of characters, and actually say something about the dark side, institutions, and come to a firm point. Because I felt like the show didn't even know if it was the dark side was sexy or repulsive or like what it was supposed to be. But like, tell us what you're going to do. If you're going to give us a show from the point of view of the Sith and why somebody becomes a Sith, do that. Do that. Let's go with Kamir, Osha, explain to us Darth Plagueis and all that. Explain to us the interesting thing with like whatever secret circle of Jedi are trying to keep the institution up, like the police union, and let's get into more of that during the season, not just at the end with an awesome David Harewood appearance and Senate coming into it and all that. So cut it down and make it more focused. It could even be more Game of Thronesy, like have some duels be and some stuff like that, but have it be a lot about conversations and theories and ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, let's just cut it down, focus it more, and I'd still be out here stumping for a season 2. That's
Yeah.
all to say. Oh, JL, do you have any?
No, I agree. I mean, we were on the show. It was great. Like, if you guys want to watch it back, but I agree. I would be totally down with a season 2, and also just kind of thinking about where this hits between the Disney Plus Star Wars shows. This one's right in the middle for me. So for me, a season 2 would be, I would be very welcome to that. I would love that. Just because it's interesting to me. The witches alone, I would watch a whole show just about the witches and, you know, their covenant and all of that. So yeah, I'd be down
Oh,
with season 2.
Janelle, come on now. You're getting spoiled. You're getting a whole Marvel witch show. Like in a
That's true.
couple.
More
We
witches.
already
You
have
guys know
witches
I
at home.
love
We're
Like
not
3
buying
years
more
late,
witches.
but
We
you
already
know,
have
it's fine.
witches at
I
home.
love
Yeah, I know.
magic.
I know. I'm just messing around. Yeah. That's all to say, guys. Go listen to our Acolyte Aftermath episode this week. It's on the Comic Book Nation podcast feed. It's also on our YouTube page. It's on whatever you're watching right now. You can also go back a couple videos and look at our Star Wars Acolyte after show with me, Janelle, and Star Wars expert Jamie Lovett. You can see our mess in real time as we had to get our bearings and get our heads together, and then have some deep discussions about the Acolyte and Star Wars as a whole. So go check that out. All right, Janelle.
Yeah.
Shifting back over to Marvel.
You know I love that.
Big news came out of nowhere. Hit me
Kofi,
like a
you wrote
brick
the
this
heck
week.
out of this article.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
it's
that.
so good because Kofi knows all the things. So
I really don't. Like
I
since
mean-
we started a Marvel podcast, it's you got to talk to the Phase Zero kids. They know so much about this
well,
now.
I
Like
had to look up what AGBO means because I was like, what is that?
Oh yeah, no, I know. Oh, my film industry. Yeah, I'm on my business there. Yeah.
Yes, Kofi knows his stuff.
Yeah.
So Kofi has some very exciting news that share. This was my first
Are
time.
you doing like a Saul type spin back over to me?
Well, kind of. Marvel Studios is in talks with the Russo brothers to direct Avengers 5 and 6. I'm just really excited because I don't know like all of the inner workings. Like I know our Russo brothers, we love them because of their Avengers ties. They've done a heck of a job. Oh, there we go. Love that beautiful picture. Nice chins. There's some good chins here. If you're not watching the live show, you're really missing out.
Matt is falling apart over there.
That's such a like. I love the compliment. It's an amazing compliment. It's just not at all what I expected.
My
Great
baby no
chins.
longer has a chin.
Fantastic chins.
Chiseled.
Yeah, you're right.
So this is exciting because I don't know if it's been fully confirmed yet, but they're in talks. Whenever you hear they are in talks, I feel like there's enough information has been released to where it's probably going to happen, right, Kofi?
Yeah, all right. That was a good. Now that's a segue. Look at that. She's an expert. She's out here hosting shows. She's doing it all. Yo, man, you just created baby out here, still killing it. You know, shout out Janelle Wheeler. Yeah, here we go. So basically, here's the deal, and here's and this is just kind of my early read on it. It's we got Big Bob back in the office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got Bob Iger in there at the adults table again, and he's trying to get Marvel back up to this blockbuster spectacle billion-dollar level. They are not just flooding content, they are investing in content. And so, they're going back to the guys that helped them make some of their biggest movies. Now, there's been mixed reactions from fans about this, and I think that's rightly so.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, I like the Russos, and they've always made it clear that they very specifically love Secret Wars, which was going to be the big kind of culminating event of the multiverse saga. So fans have been saying for years, "Oh, we getting that Russo, Secret Wars? We getting that Russo Secret Wars? Like, come on, let's go." So this makes a lot of sense in that sense. But on the other hand, it's like it's not the greatest sign for your franchise when you have to try to go back to your former hit makers to make you another hit because you haven't necessarily had that big of a hit since then. So that's not always the best look, in terms of confidence. But I think they need each other right now because the Russos have been out launching their own venture, which is the kind of AG. I never know how to say this, AGBO or whatever they call it. I don't even know if that's right, but I think it is. Their venture that is their production house. And so they've taken, yeah, it is AGD. I got it right. Past Kofi was on his game. So they've taken a lot of big swings at things, and they've had middling results. Here's what they've put out and produced. Kind of, they put out Assassination Nation. You know, didn't really do that great. 21
Didn't
Bridges.
watch it.
Yeah, Extraction series, which is hit. They did well with Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was big for their company. Um, they also put out that Tom Holland movie Cherry, which like nobody saw. They did The Gray Man, which big
Yeah.
thing that turned into a franchise, so they got a hit there, but also very costly. And then a bunch of movies you guys are probably maybe going to see smaller. Their prestige stuff isn't hitting as well in some of their genre stuff, but they got a lot in the pipeline. They got a Poltergeist remake, Thomas Crown Affair thing, um,
Ooh.
sequel to The Gray Man, a Hercules movie with Guy Ritchie, The Secret of Nim they're doing again. They got a lot in the pipeline, a lot to pay for. So they, that guaranteed big Marvel money don't look so bad right about now, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And maybe they've just realized since getting out there and trying to launch their own production company, like, yeah, maybe you need to do a little flip, go work your day job a little, then come and fund your own stuff a
Nailed
little
it.
for a couple of years. And so, yeah,
Agreed.
so we're gonna see,
Yeah.
but they know that the Russos can handle this kind of scale. The Russos have plenty of ideas they expressed with us. Even, we have plenty of quotes on comicbook.com going back years about this, about Secret Wars. So that makes sense.
By the way, I'm stoked about this. I am absolutely pumped. Like, I think that this is a good thing. I know that fans are split on this, but how do you guys, are you guys like happy about this? Or are you kind of like, I don't know?
Chris Jefferson.
Oh God.
That's a great comment.
I thought Matt was laughing at me that I was excited about this. I was like,
Chris
oh
Jefferson,
shoot, maybe I'm just stupid.
No, Chris Jefferson's comment broke me too. Chris Jefferson said, "This is like when your mom gets back with that cool guy who used to take you to baseball games." LOL.
Yes. What a comment.
Yes, a little specific, but yes, very, very good comment. Yeah, it is. And so, like, I mean, I'm about it. I'm about anybody who can help us right the ship and give me
Agreed.
movie experiences that really get me back to what the MCU was doing when it cooked at those heights, like when Avengers 1 came out or when we were all cheering in Endgame. Like, yeah, I want to get back to those days.
Mhm.
Is there a
Yeah.
correlation between the MCU faltering and fracturing and our current state of world affairs? I don't know. I'm not saying that. That sounds crazy, but I'm just saying I would like to get back to those days no matter what, right?
I think distance nerding has a really like great comparison that kind of is in line with what Kofi was saying about like how they kind of need each other right now. It's like Russos, that's a good move. It's like when LeBron went back to Cleveland. It's a spark and a rallying point for everyone. I think that's actually a pretty good thing because like LeBron didn't need to, but felt like he had unfinished business there, right? And wanted to do that. And Cleveland was like, there was so many sour grapes, right? Apology letters and all kinds of that, but like everyone made up because like, hey, this is good for everyone. And then they go and win a title and that whole thing. I think it's especially unique in this position because, earlier reports said that Marvel said no. Like that the Russos were interested and then Marvel was like, nah, we're for whatever reason, right? We're just like not moving in that direction. And now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're in talks. Now these are also early, so who knows? But if this does happen, Marvel is in. It's not like they're asking them to come in and just do like, hey, do whatever movie you want. They're not. It doesn't feel like Marvel's desperate. You know what I mean? It feels like, hey, you guys know how to guide a giant ship that's trying to do a lot of things. And all of your movies that did that really well. And right now, Marvel's a mess. All the Kang stuff has to be fixed or moved away from, and they have to find a pivot point to move into their next era. They have a bunch of dangling characters that are still waiting to be used and all. So if you're gonna have someone that can handle that kind of thing come in, why wouldn't you go to them? And the Russos don't just inherit the money-making gold-plated Marvel. There's a little bit of a mess to clean up. So they have a challenge in front of them, but there's also that money and that kind of added boost to whatever they want to do on the side. So I do agree. I think this is kind of a perfect union. This is a union of necessity for both, and I think it benefits both if they come and knock it out of the park. But it's not going to be easy. Like, I'm sure at some point in Avengers plans, Blade was in this discussion. Who knows what the hell's happening there?
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head right there but I want to point out because, yeah, I've been doing this, like I said, I'm old. I've been doing this for 16 years, and I want to, people have these shining memories of the MCU now, but like somebody who was a pundit and writing about all this stuff, when the Russos took on Winter Soldier, that was a turning point from a messy time. After phase one, and coming out of phase one, Marvel had substantial creative troubles, kind of sort of like this, but not quite the same. They weren't flooded with content, but they couldn't find, but they couldn't find a creative rhythm with any of their directors. All of their phase one directors left: Joe Johnston, Kenneth Branagh, Louis Leterrier, even Edward Norton, had dropped out because they didn't want to be part of the Marvel machine, and they were having trouble as a brand attracting filmmakers, because filmmakers who are experienced want to come in saying, I have a vision, I got this, and then having to go fight with Kevin Feige and do all this about how to produce this, get it all done. So they started turning to people who were looking to take on challenges and get that big break, like the Russos, who had been making TV shows and getting acclaim for it for 10 years then. And they were like, how about you take on this feature film? And nobody was like, wait, the Community guys? Are we getting like a paintball episode? Like, what are we doing here? Like, people weren't initially behind that. Are you kidding me? They were like, yeah, when they heard who was directing that movie and that they were taking on the Winter Soldier storyline, people were like, oh my God. And they were kind of freaking out. And then the Russos came out and just shocked everybody. Came back and did it again with Civil War. And then, when they got the keys to the big Avengers movies, everybody was like, hell yeah, these are the guys to give it to. So them coming in at a challenge time and being those underdog kids is how they got into this. That's how they got that opportunity. So I don't think they give an F about it. I don't think they're like, yeah, it was a mess until Daddy's home, and then they come back in, and they're gonna come in like Butcher. You're all effing welcome. Like, so, and they got a lot more experience now. Yeah, they got tons more experience now. So, like you said, I think this is a marriage of necessity. I think the commenters are right. This is also a clear rallying point for the fans. And if they get this locked down by next week, it's an easy win at Comic-Con to just be like, reveal us bring them out. Get T.I. to do it. T.I.'s part of the MCU. Let's go. I don't believe we have a T.I. reference in this. Reveal like those maybe amended Avengers titles, bring out the Russos as old friends, and who's not gonna, the hall will be crashing down. And Comic Book will be there to cover it all. So stay tuned to our social media pages, because next week we will be at Comic-Con covering all things Marvel. Anyway, so Russos look like they're coming back. Man, this week is all over the place. We are going to take a quick break. Then we are going to get into the angrier, darker part of the show, because some negative things have happened this week that we're personally mad about. And I made my co-host watch some scary things they're probably a little angry with me about. And we have Matt's agenda, which can go all down to the deepest parts of the psyche. So stay here. Stay tuned. We'll be back. RIP to a great that we lost this week. Of course, I'm talking about Paramount's Halo TV series. They canceled our boy.
So sad.
RIP Halo. I know a lot of you don't care. A lot of you are just cheering and clapping. But we worked hard, not just because we work for Paramount or whatever we're about to be, because we actually spent a lot of time with this show in both seasons, and especially in season 2, me and Matt, we came to really enjoy this. We did a whole Halo after show. We Matt talked with the cast and the creators every week, and yeah, it got canceled yesterday, and I'm mad. I wanted at least that 3rd season. Like, we made it to the damn Halo. We got the flood. We were on our way, and yeah, I just wanted that last piece of the content block, guys. Now it's not all the way over. There's rumors that this could get sold. There's a lot of interested parties that could produce this. I mean, Xbox could produce it. There's other people who could take it. But season 3 was supposed to even be arguably easier. We're gonna spend a lot of interior time dealing with like the Halo rings and doing all that, seeing what the flood spread was. There was a lot of stuff to be excited about that we spent. No, let's be honest. We spent 1 season messing up and then 1 season redoing season 1 and making it more exciting to get back to this point. So we were there, but I get it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we get it. We get that Paramount might be going through some changes, we heard. And so everybody's reviewing the books and determining what could be getting cut or not. Good times. And this got cut. So shields didn't hold this time. Matt, how do you feel?
I'm bummed, and I think actually, so one of the comments, Lord Rex is your friend. So I think that's a perfect summation of like what's frustrated me most about the show. By the way, not your comment. I'm just saying the general thing I've actually seen a lot online or in reactions is like season 1 was not good, and like what I also then tend to go like, oh, okay, well, did you watch season 2 or did you go into season 2? Like, what did you think of that? And a lot of like, I find there's just like a lot of like, either I didn't go back. I didn't watch it at all in season 2 because season 1 was just not for me, right? And didn't click. Or, well, I gave it like a thing here and I like this, but like then I just it's either a lot of like people just tapping out early or not even going into season 2. And it just sucks that like, to me, season 2 did such an amazing job of like putting that show through rehabilitation. And by the way, I wasn't talking personally about you. Just saying it's a good like framework of like a sentiment that I've seen a lot online. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that comment, right? It's that. So like it's frustrating when they did such a good job of having to pull that thing back up, get it back on its feet, and then go, look what this show can be. And then we get there, and it's like, nah, we're not going to season 3. It's like, no, it just was so much hard work and so much great work, I thought. And I'm just so bummed because really, this is my entry point to Halo at this point. Like, I haven't, it's been a minute since I've jumped back into a Halo game for a minute, especially like some of the older ones where like a lot of the lore was established and everything. And I just don't, this was kind of my return to the franchise in a lot of ways. Like, this got me excited for the franchise again after not really caring for a couple years. And so it's just a bummer that this goes away. Now there is that caveat, right? Like Kofi was saying, of like maybe Netflix picks this up or someone else picks this up, because Netflix is actually has made a business model out of that. They pick up shows that have like wells of support and built-in fan bases, and then they put out a season, and then they garner that interest, and then they'll put the first 2 seasons up on the streaming network, right? I mean, we've seen them do that with Manifest. We've seen them do that with several shows, and they like to do that because they're already picking up a property that they don't necessarily have to build from the bottom up, and typically it's less money. So maybe that happens, but fingers crossed that we do, because that just sucks that I'm never going to get to see the flood take over and that whole battle. And by the way, I hate the flood in the original games. Okay, I don't get it. Like, I just don't care. I care about them here. So I'm bummed. I'm generally bummed.
Janelle, I know you weren't necessarily as deep into this as we were.
Oh,
How do you feel?
No, I loved it. I looked forward to it every single week. And I'm definitely I'm not surprised because I mean, we have kind of had some inside info on Paramount's state of things, but I I am surprised. I feel like this was one of their only things that I was really like pumped about besides like RuPaul's Drag Race on Paramount Plus. So, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. Sorry.
Hey, no shade. No shade at all.
Yeah, yeah. It's not controversial. Yeah, keep going.
But I am surprised because I feel like this was kind of one of the big draws of streaming on Paramount Plus, besides our show, of course. I mean, Comic Book Nation, everybody. Never mind. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm okay. Like it's fine. I'm not going to cry in my room about it, but I am bummed. I think it had so much potential in the next season, and I do feel like there was more story to be told. And yeah, it's just, it's a bummer when you start to like something. And honestly, season 1 didn't bother me as much as it bothered a lot of other people. It had me. I was excited for
Agreed.
season 2 off of season 1. So,
Ooh.
yeah, I mean, it's up my alley. This whole series was up my alley. Whether or not it was about a video game that I really enjoyed back in the day, I was into the series. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed to add RuPaul to
RuPaul is a Spartan. The ladies of the Drag
The
Race are
crossover
Spartans.
we didn't know we needed, but it is here.
If he just took off the helmet, if the helmet came off and it was just Ru, that'd be crazy. That would be really. I would pay to see that. They need a promo like that or something. Like we do need that. Make everybody think Halo's coming back and it's just a RuPaul's Drag Race like promo. That'd be great.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so
Like,
sick.
with the music. Oh,
That would be
just
awesome.
be like boom. Like, who do you think it was? Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah. All right. So R.I.P. Halo. You can watch season 2 of Halo on Paramount Plus. Not necessarily us anymore. So shh. All right. Moving right along. Matt, let's get to something you're going to possibly enjoy a little bit more. They dropped a new trailer for something, and I'm kind of ooh. Oh wait, is this going to be dark? Is this going to be the grenade? Is this it? I don't know.
Okay,
Matt, what did you
I
think of this
was
thing
part
you're
of
about
your
to talk about?
Well, okay, so I'm going to talk about Beetlejuice 2, and I think this was part, like Sage, I think this was part of your grand plan to like wear me down little by little on this movie. Because when you first gave me this trailer, when it debuted, the teaser, I was like, oh, I'm like, I'm not the biggest Beetlejuice guy, so like some of this is just like not clicking with me. And then I got the second one, and I was like, oh, it's a little bit better. I like Michael Keaton like more and more. This is what, the third or fourth? I think this is at least the third, if not the fourth trailer.
Yeah, so it's going to be the last one, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked about on this show. And what has happened is little by little, I've come around to this. And at this trailer, I went, okay, I think I'm in. I think I'm very excited about Beetlejuice 2. I was not this excited when we started this journey back then. This trailer just like connected a lot of dots for me. It also gives us a lot more of Keaton just being Beetlejuice, just doing his thing. It gives us the weird. And the weird is the most interesting part about this. I am a Tim Burton fan. So like when he gets to just do weird oddball stuff, I dig it. I like this trailer. I like this trailer a lot. We know what the actual like kind of main narrative is, right? Of like what, like why he comes back, what they're set out to do. Like all of that is actually made pretty clear in this trailer. And so and then I was just able to get lost in the weird fun stuff. And there's a bunch of actually fun scenes, some that had me laughing out loud. So your plan worked. I am now excited for Beetlejuice 2. And yeah, there I am. That's what's happened here.
Well, just to be clear, I keep forgetting that you don't like the film. Number one, I keep assuming in my head that you're like a big fan of it, like me.
No, I'm a super fan.
No, I knew you were. Like I kept thinking it was all three of us. But I keep giving it to you because you are the biggest fan of Burton's latest work with Jenna Ortega, which is Wednesday.
True.
Which you were like a super duper fan of, and so I keep trying to sell you on this purely for the Jenna Ortega Tim Burton of it all.
And it worked.
And I thought
it absolutely
I thought this trailer had so much more of her, and I was like I think Matt will like this. and you get to get who she kind of is, Astrid as Lydia's daughter. And yeah, and I think this was an interesting one for me because it gives us, and again, I'm trying to resist watching trailers, but we have to do our job, and these just happen to come my way. And just seeing the angle of what this movie is going to be, kind of taking us more into the afterlife and doing all that is really interesting. And like you said, like Michael Keaton's from Pennsylvania, and we're a very weird state with very weird people. I'm one of them. Hi. And he got to be such a great actor because he's so good about being idiosyncratic and weird and kind of doing all of that. Like even in The Flash, where he's just eating pasta as Bruce Wayne with this weird ascot tied around him. Like Michael Keaton's so great about being weird, whether it's Birdman, stuff like that, or the original Batman. When you go back and watch that, he's a freaky, weird Bruce Wayne. Like even in all that, he looks like he kind of has that slight crazed look in his eye at certain points in the movie. So seeing him just get to just chew scenery in this, like the scene where him and Dafoe are together, and remembering this is like Dafoe and Michael Keaton together, and like just him being like, never seen that broad in my life or my afterlife, like right here where we're watching on the live show, which is why you gotta watch, is hilarious. And just seeing him get to just, they said it in interviews that the cast was like, yeah, it was crazy to see him just go back after all this time and just jump right back into being Beetlejuice. And this trailer sold me on that aspect of it. I'm not watching anymore. I'm already sold, but yeah, spilling my gut. Like there's just, yeah, it's just everything you love about this character. And yeah, Chris Jefferson, I love our fans. Yes, Keaton was a comedian. He started as a stand-up comedian. Like that was his whole thing. Again, weird turns of history. When he got cast as Batman, people were like, the weird comedy guy? Are you out of your mind? Like when he first got cast as Batman. It was controversial. So yeah, him just slipping back into this so well is fantastic. I love this scene. And yeah. And just Burton, and I like that there's shots in this that just tell you it's gonna get weird. And it's gonna look weird. And I'm so about it. Janelle, how do you feel?
You're another diehard. I was cheesing. I was just so pumped. I was eating my breakfast this morning, eating it or like watching it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Oh, wow. There she is. There she is. There he is. Oh, this is the house. Oh, wow. Wait, there's another version of Beetlejuice. Like, I was just so excited. Everything, all of the references back to the original movie have me just so excited. It seems like there's an overwhelming amount of references back to the original film. So I love all of that. I mean, even her hair, like Lydia's hair, like it's just everything. I'm so excited. I looked over at my husband and said, should we do Beetlejuice for Halloween? And he goes, I've never seen that movie.
Oh.
What? I'm sorry. Of course. Like, how could you not watch the original Beetlejuice?
My screen didn't freeze. My emotions did.
Yeah, I'm shocked. So we're going to be watching it this weekend. I'm pumped to share this with him. My favorite movie of all time is Labyrinth, and he hated that. So hopefully I can redeem myself with one of my other favorite movies of all time. And hopefully he'll like it. I just looked at him. I said, you are so not an 80s child. And he goes, no, because he was born in the 90s.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
That's the way the very quiet way he said, no, but I understand completely because I found out like a month ago, we were just having a random discussion and I found out Anissa had never seen Princess Bride. And I had the same like, right, exactly.
What are you guys building your relationships on before you marry these people?
I know. This is why I am so happy I have you guys in my life to share these important
partying
and sin, as all these relationships were built on. Clearly,
I had that same reaction because she was like, and I was like, "What?" I like flipped my lid. I was like, "How can you? Inconceivable! How can you not have seen this movie?"
Inconceivable.
I said the same thing to my husband. He hasn't seen that one either. So we have a list, man. I don't know what her excuse is though, because mine was born in the 90s and like obviously wasn't old enough.
You guys are not. You need to check everything at this point. You need to check Goonies. You need to check Goonies.
Oh yeah,
check
Goonies.
Never Ending Story.
Never Ending Story. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, you gotta check that out. You put on The Jam. and be what you see. You just start bobbing your head and look at them in the eye, and if they don't start bobbing too, be like, no, that's not right. Like, come on, we going, sit down.
Yeah, I think it was Monty Python and the Holy Grail as well was one,
Oh
and I have to go watch that with her
gosh.
as well. I know it's like one of my favorite movies of all time. I can't.
That's a lot, yeah. All right.
Yep.
Yep. Man,
Right.
yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
Beetlejuice too good.
On a lighter note, final Alien Romulus trailer also dropped.
Gross.
And I wish I had to see it again. I had to do it, but I wish I didn't because I'm not watching anymore after this. Yes, but for very different reasons. We wish. Because I am so psyched for this. I didn't get to do my.
It looks awesome.
Yeah, I didn't get to. I wasn't here. Patrick Cavanaugh thankfully stepped in for me while I was on vacation to talk about Long Legs, but we're gonna do some kind of horror thing. I forgot this week, but we're gonna get with Patrick and do a whole horror movie catch up before we get into the second half of this year too deeply. But Alien Romulus is one of my most highly anticipated films and horror films of the second half of the year. Fede Alvarez, who did Evil Dead and Don't Breathe, is a really good horror director in my opinion, and I think he's gonna knock this out of the park. Just final trailer. I like the premise of this. I like that he's so good at doing these movies with characters who are not quite heroic, that are kind of, tainted heroes, like in Don't Breathe and in this. These are about groups of kids pulling a heist, essentially. And them pulling a heist in a alien infested, and I feel like this is going to have a deeper story because this ship doesn't just look like it's overrun with xenomorphs. It looks like they were doing something shady with xenomorphs on it, and to kind of see them stumble into that is a great horror premise because you are so effed and over your head before you even begin. And I'm gonna like the build up of this, and this is gonna get weird with in most movies, the difference between, and this trailer illustrates what Fede Alvarez is going to bring to this. And to my brother watching, I'm finding out now if my kids have eaten lunch or not. But I told them that you would be bringing hot dogs. So I would say make 3 hot dogs for me and the kids, because I'll probably want a hot dog right after this. Yeah. While we're watching an Alien trailer, I'm making my hot dog lunch orders with my little brother. So welcome to Comic Book Nation. Anyway, back to Alien. So Fede Alvarez, in most Alien movies, you see somebody get hit with a face grabber, right? It jumps out of the dark and it grabs them, and then they're gone. They're on the ground. They're asleep already. Nah, Fede Alvarez is going to give you an extra minute of watching somebody trying to get that tentacle out of their mouth and struggling before they get got. So, that's going to be the Fede Alvarez Alien movie, and I am here for it because I think what Alien has forgotten is that there is such an and Janelle, I'm sorry, but you are kind of my test case for this. As somebody who's a new mom, I bet you are feeling this because the core of Alien, and people forget the core of what horror is. It's supposed to be a metaphor for something specific in life. And Alien has always been a body horror about reproduction, right? And like the horrors and nightmares of reproduction. This is what this whole thing is. So I'm sorry, Janelle, but I just needed you to help me prove the point that you're like, I do not care for this at this moment in time in my life.
I mean, it looks awesome. Let me just say, it looks freaking amazing, but it is doing exactly what you would expect of anyone involved with Evil Dead to do, scaring the crap out of me. It is so frightening on top of like it being Alien, which is already so scary. It is now a horror Alien film, and I don't want to see this because I just don't want to be scared like this. It looks so well done that I don't want to deal with it.
No, yeah. I've only watched the Evil Dead remake once. One of the greatest theatrical experience I've had. New York, 34th Street, midnight showing. One of the greatest theatrical experiences I've ever had because I'm sorry, Matt. Hey, Rich, can we take down the trailer before these two really I think Matt and Janelle are losing it because we keep replaying the trailer. Oh, I didn't need to see that last part again either.
No,
man.
Nope.
Yeah,
Nope. Nope.
Yeah. Whenever
Please.
Rich or Peter, anybody in production, we can just pull down this trailer. Yeah, we've seen it enough times. But yeah, I've only seen the Evil Dead remake once because of great theatrical experience, but it's so gnarly and it's so made me just twist and turn and twitch and stuff that I was like, that was great. I am never gonna do that again. Yeah, and even Don't Breathe, which is so tense. I can only watch that sometimes because even that gets so gross at the end and just gnarly that I'm just like, oof. Alien Hawk to us, Drywood. Why?
Comments are
Why?
on fire today. I will say.
The comments are so on
Comments,
fire today.
they're so good
Alien
today.
Hawk Chua. That is so great. Oh man, there is a lot of that in here. All right. Well, we'll be here to cover Alien Romulus. Maybe not my two co-hosts, but me and like Patrick Kavanaugh and other people. We'll take this one for you guys. Don't worry. I won't make you do this again. Janelle,
I'm not even
something that's a
scared.
little. You're grossed out, right?
It's shit, like, but that's the other point, right? Like, you brought it up, right? That's part of what makes this franchise so creepy on its own, is that aspect to the horror. And I will give the trailer immense credit. It does that extremely well. Okay, I'm not scared in this trailer. I'm so creeped out and grossed out by how these things operate, because those PG and PG-13 aliens were made for me. Okay, the cutaways, the moving away. Oh, I don't like him going on the face, and then they're done. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. This is like that level of detail my brain did not need, and it's like, all right, I don't need it's oh my god, but fantastic. I wish all of you well. I celebrate your victory here.
So distance nerding. Stop trolling us, distant nerding. You know what the hell the rating on this movie is. It is going to be an R-rated movie. Stop it. Well, maybe you guys, if just see, we can get a little movie nerd and maybe crib this in the interesting fact that they built really crazy intricate animatronic puppets for the face huggers, and it's no better when you see it in real life, actually, because they're so well done and intricate in the way they made them move. So they have them on like wheels and stuff, but they have the legs also moving like in the thing, so that they would prank people on set because they could, wheel these things around set, and they move with all the articulation in the tail and the legs to look like they're real. Yeah. Yeah, and so like there's video of them just like messing with people on set, like having them come running out, like, and people like, oh my god, like,
Okay, I do kind of want to watch that. I'd watch that. I'd watch that because I have some little bit of break that it's not real. But yeah, but applause.
No,
like,
just to mess with us, they built the most intricate little face hugger puppet animatronics they could. So they're keeping it classic. So those things are really on their face and stuff. So that's not, and when it's not CGI and stuff, you can tell. So looking forward to that. All right, Janelle, you can go back to your safe space now and get a little witchy.
Yeah. Sorry. Witchy. Deep breaths. Dune prophecy trailer. Yes. Dude, this is the show. If you guys aren't aware, I feel like everybody is aware, but there's a new HBO original series, and it is it's Dune and exploring that universe. And if you're like me, you don't have a lot of context on this universe, and this trailer kind of helped. I'm personally so excited about this because it felt like Game of Thrones in the desert. Like, it's a unified. Yes. I mean, this is showing the political and the religious stuff that I really did not realize Dune was based on off of the original film. Like, I didn't even really understand what I was watching when I saw that. And then, these reboot films have been beautiful to watch, and I like the casts and I dig them, but I'm not in it the way that I am with other properties that I have more context and I understand a little bit more because I did not read these books. And so I feel like this series, just based on this trailer alone, is going to create a huge fan in myself because I'm going to understand what all of it means. And, Kofi, you've been talking about this for a long time about like the political aspects and like the families and the ties and all of the heavier stuff that I didn't really get from the films because I didn't have that background. And I think this is great. I think they've painted a really lovely picture. What did you guys think of this trailer?
Okay, so just for context, This is 10,000 years before the events of Dune.
Okay.
So long time before. But it follows these two Harkonnen sisters as they establish the Ben Gesserit and establish the prophecy of, oh god, of that becomes on Arrakis, Lisan Al Gaib, and I forget, Sylvester Chavez or whatever they call the I'm just kidding. But it's the name of the, I forget the name that they name of their name for the chosen one that becomes Paul Atreides. But if you kind of remember what they gave you in Dune 2, it was centuries of breeding that they did to get to Paul, combining houses, you know, breeding with people, identifying, the people with the sight and the witch powers, kind of training them as both spies, magicians, all the things they needed to be warriors to go out into the galaxy. And again, manipulate, because they would go by these visions of who needed to breed with who, what houses needed to be united, what kind of powers of the universe needed to be brought together, because Dune and the movies didn't deal with like why Paul can see things, and like there are these whole other sect of things called navigators who see through time and space to kind of help hyperspace travel. There's people who have minds like calculators who can do the great numbers crunching and calculations for all the houses. So there's all these things that they combined all of those into one person to create Paul Atreides. And so this series will show you how the Ben Gesserit started and how they took up the mission of going through generations of breeding and searching for this chosen one that they wanted to produce. So that's going to be pretty interesting. And yeah, I'm in for it. And since it's 10,000 years before, there's nothing we really got to be beholden to anything except the lore of Dune and the general mythos of the shape of this universe. So, Game of Dune sounds great to me. I'm a big believer in HBO being able to do these kind of franchise prequels after seeing House of the Dragon, and I'm here for it. Matt, you care at all?
Yeah, I think at its core, that's a really interesting concept. Of seeing like a lot of prequel stuff. Like prequel stuff is kind of hit and miss with me because sometimes there's just not enough there, or you explained so much of it in the in the present that I'm like, I don't know if I'm so interested in learning how that became a thing. Like there has to be something there that's really interesting. This as a concept of, because it took so long and it's such a in depth, and you're dealing with, because the process itself, right? There's like the science and magic of it, but then there's also literally the like, okay, the people manipulation and the politics of it all. That mesh is interesting. I think that's a cool idea. And this looks, I mean, it very much looks like an HBO prestige series. Like the production values look up to par with the movies. It feels like part of that universe. It doesn't feel like this, off-brand Dune, diet Dune. It doesn't feel like that. So this is cool. I dig it. I will absolutely give it a shot.
And Ben Gesserit, and they were trying to produce the Quitsats Hatterack. I hate that name. God, I hate some of these Dune names, but right, the Hatterack. Let's just, because we're gonna hear this by the end. Somebody's gonna have a vision that this needs to happen by the end of season 1, and we're gonna be off to the races. I'm telling you right now. So it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be interesting for hardcore Dune book readers, because I don't know if the books have ever gone back this far. I think they just kind of go forward, if I'm not mistaken. So this is new territory for everybody, and I think HBO will do it in an interesting way. But like you said, Matt, I think you're nailing it. The kind of mystical, there's a mix of mystical, of sci-fi, and of socio-political stuff, because you even get hints in the trailer of people from Arrakis being in this, and you got to remember that's, they exported this whole prophecy to Arrakis when they learned about the spice, and to kind of get the locals ready for subjugation to this chosen one that the Ben Gesserit was going to install. So there is a lot of that kind of machinations around it, and so yeah, I'm interested. And I think HBO's kind of change in strategy has been really smart, because think about how much we're talking about it now. House of the Dragon is killing it, or I mean HBO and Max. So like the Penguin is something we are all like really in for, and this is coming out as well. So whatever's happened at Time Warner there, good job, because they are turning things around on that front. And now with the plan to even keep doing this and having these big franchise IPs not just be on Max but also be HBO airing, feels like we're so back in a way. All right. All right, let's kind of get to the final portion of our show, Matt's agenda. Matt, what do you got today?
Well, much like much like the Wolverine Deadpool trailer dropped before the show, DC did not drop its big news unveiling of its kind of post Absolute Power era, and also something that had been kind of leaked around and talked about a lot for about a week going into it, but finally DC Absolute. So they finally unveiled all of the things right after we recorded the pull list. So while we will get into kind of the nitty gritty stuff and all the creative teams, because there's a lot to process also with Comic-Con coming up, there's probably even going to be more released over the next week or so. We'll get all to that into next week's pull list, but I did want to go over some of the highlights here because it is interesting. There's a lot happening. So this new initiative is called DC All In, and it's not like Rebirth in the sense of this kind of giant rebranding, but it is kind of a big enough shakeup that it gets its own name, and there's going to be new creative teams coming in for some of the books, new directions for some of the books, but also like Chip Zdarsky's not leaving Batman. He's staying on. Williamson's not leaving Superman. King's not leaving Wonder Woman. Like some of those bigger things will still be in place, but we got a lot of new teams coming in, a lot of stuff that we'll pick up right from Absolute Power number 4. And that's going to kind of set this thing in motion of, okay, we've kind of had the DC heroes splintered for a bit, ever since like the Justice League disbanded and all that kind of stuff. Now we're going to have this kind of more united front for the heroes. And what kind of a threat are you going to bring in for them? Darkseid. And that's going to be where this all-in event really kicks off with kind of the supersized issue, promising a different version of Darkseid than we've had before. And it'll kind of have to bring all the heroes together, and that's kind of where things will set off. So, it's interesting. I'm glad this is not like a New 52 or Rebirth style thing. We're not redoing the status quo, but we are shaking it up and kind of presenting an entry point for people to hop on there after Absolute Power. So that's what All In is. But then they also revealed that, and also, by the way, one of the highlights for me is one of the all-in creative teams is Tom Taylor jumping on Detective Comics, which his Nightwing run is ending, but the fact that we're getting him on a Batman book is fantastic. So like Tom Taylor doing anything is great for me. His books are fantastic. He does great things, and now he'll be in Detective, so that'll be awesome. And then Dan Mora is joining the Superman team for that arc. And everyone who's been following this show for a while knows that Dan Mora is like one of my favorite artists. And the fact that he's going to be jumping on with Williamson to do a big arc on Superman, which Jamal Campbell's been crushing. Rafa Sandoval has been crushing. That book has been having some of the best art DC's been putting out. This is fantastic. But moving into DC Absolute. DC Absolute is the long talked about Scott Snyder helmed kind of essentially not an answer to, but DC's version of what Marvel's Ultimate Universe is, or even better, a kind of new version of what All-Star used to be, if anyone remembers DC All-Star. That was kind of these alternate takes, this kind of set aside universe, not Elseworlds, but kind of its own universe that was starting to happen where they could do different things with the heroes and characters. So the fact that we're now kind of getting this new era, we've got some of the creative teams, there's some big concepts here. We're also giving all of the Trinity their own books. One of the ones I'm most excited about is Wonder Woman, because Kelly Thompson is jumping on the Wonder Woman. Janelle knows Kelly Thompson from her excellent Captain Marvel run. We've been keeping up with Kelly for Birds of Prey and Scarlet and everything in between. So the fact that she's not going to tackle a Wonder Woman book is amazing. And it's a Wonder Woman that there was no sisterhood, there's no Themyscira, there's no like all of those things are kind of taken out of it. And what does that Wonder Woman look like? And the kind of the same ideas are being applied to like Batman. What is Batman without, this Batman doesn't have a butler. This Batman doesn't have the money. This Batman doesn't have the mansion. So what does that Batman look like? Superman doesn't have the Kents. doesn't have all of that stuff that's always been like that stability for him. What does that look like? So there's some interesting concepts for the Trinity, and there's a bunch of books that are being that have been revealed. Yes, Mikhail Janin on Batman, fantastic. I'm excited for that too. A lot of big things happening here. We'll get into all that next week, but I just wanted to give an overhead view because this is big, and this will be coming this year. And I think DC in the comics has had a really good year this year. So I'm excited and hopeful that they keep that momentum going, and this isn't a detour. So promising, but moving into that. Any kind of anything you guys wanted to touch on? Are you excited for this? Like, how you feeling?
Your explanation, I didn't understand what this was at first because we've been doing so many things as we were coming into the show. So now I'm like, oh, after you just did that, I'm like, yeah, I need to go see what this is all about. So
Yeah,
that's more breaking news from Matthew Aguilar right there. So you just putting me on. So yeah, after this, I will be looking into it. While we're here, we're on the subject. Do you just want to real quick talk about how Absolute Power is going? We've been doing it on the pull list every week, and we didn't get to finish some of the tie-ins this week. So we had Janelle go out and read it and get caught up. So let's just do a little real quick kind of just catch up with where DC's at with Absolute Power in the comics. Janelle, how was your break into that?
Oh gosh, man. I couldn't help myself. I threw into our group chat. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a heck of a comic." That was awesome. Like, wow. I am about this entire series, and I know we're talking specifically about Wonder Woman 11 today. But even, you guys had me obviously read the first like the big, I guess, was that the first release?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first issue.
That was spectacular. I mean, it sucks that I had to read that and then the Wonder Woman 11 because it was hard to compare, but this storyline is spectacular. This is so intriguing and interesting to me. It's you get to see so many characters, so many of your favorite heroes, and in one place. And for once, they feel weak, like they feel vulnerable, and sometimes that vulnerability isn't believable, and it feels so believable here. So I just enjoyed the heck out of this.
Yeah, Matt, I caught up with both tie-ins, Superman and Wonder Woman, because I hadn't finished them when we did the poll list this week. Go back and listen to the poll list. But yeah, I'm, when we did Absolute Power, I said one of the things I hoped was that the sum would, the sum would also equal it out into the parts when we did the tie-ins, and so far they're nailing what I like to see about this, which is taking, these characters' powers away or having them face that vulnerability and what it does to not just them, but the worlds that are built around them. And so, like the Superman one with that excellent art by Jamal Campbell, yeah, like you said, it was really great to see this earned bigger world and family that Superman, not even family because that's Action Comics, but this cast of characters, whether it's Silver Banshee and Jimmy, or Lex and Lena and Superman and even Mercy in this, what happens when Superman can't be Superman as much anymore, and like how does everybody around him act? This was an excellent, and what his inspiration means when you take away his powers was fantastic. It actually reflected something about this title about absolute, this nature of power and what it means and what is power. It kind of showed you the power Superman has, even if Superman's not able to fly around and do all that stuff. Same thing in Wonder Woman. Interesting deviation from our story in Tom King for sure. And I will say, guys, this may be just me personally, but I started speed reading halfway through this because I don't read dialogue with any of those funky little kind of
the clicks and the
clicks, the
pauses.
I couldn't. I was like,
this goes, and this is a trauma that goes all the way back to a Ninja Turtles comic when I was little, and the guy who was half roach, the villain who was half roach, he always spoke in clicks and stuff. I don't do a lot of Bizarro stories either.
Oh,
like even demon stories I get sometimes like, okay,
it was
like
just a little much. It was
it gets much. Yeah, I
if it's just like some, like a few comments here and there, but like the
Plus their
entire
quotes,
dialogue
yeah.
from page after page after page. Yeah.
Yeah, plus they're all quotes, and then there's like a mystery. Detective Chimp's trying to figure out about the quotes. I was like, good for you, Detective Chimp, because I'm not gonna.
Yeah, thank you for doing that for us.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm
I was
speeding
more
past all the
annoyed by that.
dialogue.
I was more annoyed by that because that doesn't go anywhere really. And that frustrated me because I was like, okay, he's starting to figure it out, and then like he figures it out, but like it's just like, well, okay, that was unnecessary. So like that was just a lot of buildup for nothing.
I still
and
didn't
there
even
is a
understand
ton.
it.
Yeah, like there's a ton of that. And my biggest thing is when we kind of briefly touched on it on the pull list, I was kind of like, okay, well, this is like, whereas Superman felt like we're still kind of moving the Superman family and like some of those arcs forward within Absolute Power, this felt like we're just kind of like pause. Like we're pausing Wonder Woman and all of that stuff that's been going on, and we're going to deal with Absolute Power. So it just wasn't as like well integrated for me as Superman was, because like that one was moving everything on all fronts, and this one just kind of shifted to, okay, we're going to focus on Absolute Power. But that's probably why I appreciated the backup story with Black Canary and Damien falling in love with Black Canary, because Trinity is such a huge fan. Probably why I appreciated that more, because it was a good balance for me. I still needed some of that Wonder Woman stuff. I hate every
reference to the Taylor Swift stuff. Can we stop bringing Taylor Swift into every single thing that exists on the planet?
Well, the good news is that it does very much seem more and more that Blake Lively is not, it may be stepping in for Taylor. So maybe that's not a thing that'll happen there, and you won't have to hear about it so much. That would be
absolutely spectacular. That would make my year. I'm not very the birth glad of my child, just not Taylor Swift.
Just no more Taylor Swift love.
Any Marvel things.
Oh my God. There's the grenade. That's really the grenade of this episode. But yeah, I'm glad y'all are digging Absolute Power. And obviously there is, as mentioned in the comments, there is an Absolute Power panel at Comic-Con. So it'll be interesting to see what they reveal there. And it's only 4 issues. So, number 2 will be here pretty soon. So yeah, but that's comics, man.
Perfect segue. Real light. We only got about a minute left because we got to end this. But what you guys looking for? I'll be at Comic-Con next week. Repping in my Comic Book Nation shirt. Holler at me if you hear me, if you're out in San Diego. Anything you guys are especially looking forward to? I mean, we're all looking forward to the Marvel panel, at Hall H, obviously. Is there anything else beyond that you guys are especially kind of keyed in on? You now have 60 seconds.
I'm excited about our representation there, comicbook.com, like us. I think we have 2 panels being hosted by our peeps. Right. So that is really, really exciting. Brandon Davis and Chris Killian. So I'm very excited about that. And then obviously anything Doctor Who-ish. And because I know there will be a Doctor Who panel. And then honestly, this is my weird one. What We Do in the Shadows. They have a panel.
Ooh, good. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. For their final season too, I think. So Yep. All right, Matt, you got 30 seconds, buddy. What do you want to say?
I'm gonna say Marvel Rivals is gonna have a presence there, and I'm actually really intrigued to see if that can kind of win me into that type of genre, because I've tried some other games and I haven't really been won over yet. Hoping to get some big reveals there. And then toys, man. McFarlane DC is gonna have a bunch of stuff to drop. We're gonna get a lot of toy presents on this front, so I'm excited for that. That's me.
All right. We are Comic Book Nation. Subscribe to our feeds. We do all kinds of shows, anime, gaming, comics, live show. Subscribe to Phase Zero for this next week with Deadpool and Wolverine. And subscribe to all of us because we are combining forces. Me, Brandon Davis, Chris Killian will be out at Comic-Con, and we'll be doing some recap videos that'll also get posted on our feeds and things like that. The main Comic Book Nation squad will be here without me next Friday, to talk to you about kind of what's going on with Deadpool Wolverine and the mess of Comic-Con in the midst of it. And I think we might even do like a bonus wrap-up episode when I get back as well. So going to be a lot going on.
Awesome.
Stay tuned to it all. We are bringing the heat out there at SDCC. We got some incredible things planned. I was just meeting up with the Comic-Con team yesterday. We also saw one of the worst movies I've ever seen in years, and I can't tell you about that yet, but stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. All right, this is Comic Book Nation. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Matt. We'll see you guys. It's going to be a busy week next week. Peace.